Hello everybody and welcome to the Quilter's Apothecary. Today we are going to be doing a tutorial on a border treatment using the Mystical V ruler. A few of the other rulers we're going to be using is the new designer ruler, which is fantastic for doing some marking. We're going to look at a few cornerstones and then attack the border. Again, one of the methods that I prefer is a no measure border where we start from the middle and we work our way out. I've never been very fond of math, so those type of borders tend to be my favorites. So let's go over to the machine and let's learn how to quilt this wonderful border treatment out. Let's first establish that what we have here is a 7-inch border. Here is our corner. It works its way into the center. The only registration line that I have marked is the center line. Now we would have folded all 4 sides of the quilt and located the center of each border before we loaded the quilt. And then of course it would be a mirror image from the middle out to the right side. The ruler we're going to be utilizing today for this particular border is the Mystical V, and I already have my tape marks here. I have it marked at the bottom line, which is of course the 5-inch line. I have the 4-inch line marked, I have the 3-inch line marked, and then I also have the 2-inch line marked. And that's our registration lines for this particular border. So let's get started. I have my stitches locked. Here is the very center of the border. I'm going to bring my V over. I'm going to slide it right into that foot. I'm going to make sure that my tape goes right to the line so that way it's even right across. I also make sure that the center line on my V ruler is lined up. Remember, this is a stopper, so that's where it's going to stop. Start my machine. Come up. Go to the line, move the ruler, come aside, make sure to line up again this straight line so it's right down the center. I'm also going to make sure to double check down here, make sure that that tape lines up so we have the same height. Everything lines up, and actually this lines up wonderfully with the previous sew line, so that's kind of a third way to check to make sure you're getting that perfect V. Now we're going to come down, I slide up, I go to where the ruler stops, slide my ruler, come down to the side, make sure that this line is lined up again. Everything's good. And now I'm going to continue all the way over to the end of the border as far as I choose to go for this particular border treatment. Slide the ruler. I'm going to continue up, make sure my tape is lined up perfectly straight across. Come up, lock. Move the ruler, come down, and I'm going to get this perfect points up at the top of my V. Now, as you look here, what you're going to see is I'm close to the edge of my border. Right now we're doing a fancy border treatment, but I'm going to do some special stuff over in this corner. Again, the whole point of this particular border treatment, for me personally, is to have it look wonderful, but also not have to do a lot of math, because I have no interest in math. Here is the center of our border. Our next step is going to be marking the valleys and the peaks. So I just make sure to line up my ruler, and right now I'm using the designer ruler, and I make sure to use a horizontal line right on the seam or the ditch of your border, and then I'm very simply going to mark, slide, make sure to line this up so that way you make sure that your line is perfectly vertical. Boom, 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 all the way over. And for me, what we have is from the center out, 1, 2, 3 on this particular border, which is a small border, but it works great for this tutorial. So now let's move on to our next step. Now we're going to go in and add 3 V shapes inside the main V shape. I'm going to slide my ruler over, and again, we've marked this center line all the way up into the peak of the V shape. My center line here on the V ruler goes right on the center line that I've marked there. I make sure that my tape line comes down so that they are all consistent in height. I'm going to travel the ditch. Now I'm going to go up. There's the peak. Stop, pause, turn, slide the ruler, make sure my center line relines up. Come down. Now I'm going to travel the ditch again. Come in about the same distance. So we're going, it looks like about 1/2 of an inch is what I've chose. And now I'm going to slide this back up, and I'm going to go to my next height. Now again, I'm going to line up that center line. I've moved my foot over too far, so now I'm going to go back the other way just a little bit. Line that up with the center. Make sure my tape is lined up right on my seam line or my ditch line in the border itself. Come up, slide the ruler, come down, make sure my center line is lined up, make sure my tape is lined up. And then again, I'm going to come down to the next height, and we're going to come down to that next tape, which is going to be our 2-inch line. Make sure that that is centered up. I'm going to travel the ditch over, come up, stop, slide the ruler, make sure my line is lined up, make sure it's straight, and then I'm going to come down. Now I've created 3 valleys. I'm going to work my way all the way over and do that inside each one of these to the center. Now at that point, what I could do if I were working in a traditional border rather than a tutorial is I would work my way from the center all the way over to the left and then back, so that by the time I'm done, I end up with this, with my 3 V-shapes inside. And then we would move on to our next step. So let me move toward the center. Do my next V, make sure that that lines up. It's going to be the 4-inch line for me. For this particular design, slide it up, my center line lines up, I come over, slide up, slide my ruler over, make sure that line is lined up, make sure my tape is lined up here, that way I'm not going to have a slanted line. Come down, and then we're going to slide back in the ditch, and we're going to repeat the process that we just did in that first one. So I line up my center line, I come down to the 3-inch mark, make sure that that line is straight, make sure that that lines up on the bottom with the tape, slide up, slide the ball, lock it, make sure it's all lined up, come down. Once you use this wonderful ruler a little bit, you're going to get really comfortable and you're going to move pretty darn fast. Just like anything, it takes a little bit of time to get comfortable with anything new. Come up, I've lined that up perfectly. I'm going to come up, slide right up into the seam, come back down, lock it, line up my line, my tape is lined up. Now I have my 3rd perfect V. Now I'm going to travel the ditch and I'm going to do my centerpiece. The other thing I want you to remember is if you're traveling the ditch in that seam to get to the next V, you can use your V ruler as a ditch ruler. So slide right over, turn your ruler, reline up that center. We're going to go down to 4 inches and repeat the process that we've just repeated on the other 2 V's. Now we're over to the left side of our border, and actually now we're going to come over and we're going to work our way back, and in the valley of each V shape we're going to go in and we're going to lay in a diamond to add another design element, which we will later go in and fill to really add some pizzazz to this amazing border. So I'm going to travel over. And now I'm going to travel up just like as if I were ditching. So I'm going to travel right on that sew line. I'm going to try to keep it right on there. Now the thing to remember is if you do go off this line a little bit when you're doing this particular portion, Remember, you can come back with the ruler when you are completely done with this portion of the border before you roll. And you can actually just thicken that line a little bit, just to clean up a little bit of the overshoot or undershoot as it may be. So now I'm going to take my ruler over. I'm going to make sure, again, that my tape goes to the seam line. So this tape that I have on my ruler, or if you just want to use the line without the tape, that's fine too. I just like the tape because I'm half blind. So I'm going to come down here. I'm going to make sure to line that tape right on that line. The other line that I'm concerned about is I want to make sure that this center line that we've made lines up on the center line on the ruler. So now I'm lined up. I'm going to come down and then I'm going to slide up. There's half that diamond shape. Go right to the line, slide the ruler again, double check my line, make sure that that's lined up. Now I'm going to come down this side. So now what I'm going to do is now I'm going to slide down, travel the ditch, come up, and keep repeating those diamond shapes down in the valley between each of the V's, all the way over to the opposite side. So here is our center. We have now done our V-shapes with our 3 consecutive shorter V-shapes, and then we've separated those with our diamonds in the center. And now what we're going to do is we're going to go in between these two, and I'm going to put it in the registration line right in this short valley, so on each side. And that will take us to the next portion of this particular design. Come down, and I don't have to come all the way down, I can just bring it right down to there. And remember, the one thing that's very important is you want to make sure to use marking tools that you trust personally. That's very, very important, especially it builds confidence for yourself. You know that you don't have to worry about it. I have a wonderful tutorial up on different marking tools and how to get them out. So check that out as we work our way across here and make our marks. Now we've marked our valley points, and now we're going to use our V and we're going to slide in. I'm going to go in 2 inches right to the tape here, so this one up here is going to mimic the V shape here. And what I'm going to do is go into all of these valleys and put a V shape coming down from the top in. So line that up, come down, there, turn the ruler, lock that in, make sure my line lines up, make sure my tape lines up, come down the other side, slide the ditch, reline it up, make sure that lines up, make sure your tape lines up, slide down, slide the ditch, and repeat this all the way across. Okay, now at this point, let's go ahead and let's get some perspective on what we have going on here. Again, this is the center of the border right here. We've worked our way out from the center out. I stopped right at the point where, had I have continued, I would not have gotten a full triangle without running into the corner. I'm going to save my corners until the very end when I finish this. So I'm going to focus now on this portion and what am I going to do to fill in some of this area and make this border sing. As I look at this and I find that I'm going to head from left to right, what I'm going to do is to go into these short V's, and I'm going to go ahead and put a lotus feather in this one and also this bottom one. So that way it kind of mirrors itself and it's going to tie into each other. I think what I'm going to do in the diamonds here is I'm going to go ahead and do a crosshatch that's going to follow the angle that the V ruler is on its own. And then I'm going to alternate that every other one. So I will do a straight crosshatch, and then every other one I will do a curve crosshatch. So that way I get a little bit of interest. Because again, our whole goal is not just to catch the viewer, but we want to keep them. We want to keep their eyes moving over the quilt. I'm doing a double bump up here into the corner, that way I fill in that tip and we're not going to have any floppy fabric. We're going to do this all the way across, and then we'll come down and we will do it in the bottom portions.